Turn my microphone back on. Something happening? Oh, my. Let me start again. This is a regular monthly open meeting of the Third Laguna Hills Mutual Board of Directors, a California nonprofit mutual benefit corporation. Today is Tuesday, September 17th, 2024, and it's 9:30 a.m. We are here live in the boardroom as well as available for viewing on TV6, Zoom, and Granicus. I'd like to request that those in the room who haven't already done so, please silence your phones. And I'd like to call the meeting to order. We have a quorum. And we'll start today's meeting with our Pledge of Allegiance, led by Director Jim Cook. Jim?
You follow along with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, Jim. It's now time to approve our agenda for today. Can I get a motion to approve today's agenda? Ira moves, Reza seconds. Thank you. Any suggested changes to today's agenda? All right, seeing none, we'll consider the agenda approved. And we're moving on to agenda item 4, where we're now looking to approve the meeting minutes for 2 different meetings. Let's work to address them collectively. There are the regular board meeting of August 20th and our agenda prep meeting of September 6th. Can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes for the 2 meetings outlined in the agenda package? Reza moves. Ira seconds. Thank you both again. Anybody have any suggested changes or corrections? Okay, all right. Seeing none, anybody have any issues approving them as they are in our agenda packets then? Okay, seeing none, we'll consider the agendas approved by consent as well. And we'll now move on to agenda item 5, which is our report of the chair. I have some brief comments to share with you this morning. My first comment is to remind you, those of you who haven't yet voted for candidates to fill the 3 board director positions that are coming open this October, to please do so. Board directors make many important decisions on your behalf, so please vote for the candidates that you believe will best represent you. If you don't know much about the candidates, you can read their candidate statements that came with the ballot. You can also watch the candidates forum and hear the candidates share their recorded thoughts on TV6 next Tuesday, September 24th. And to have your ballot counted, it must be received by Thursday, September 26th, as the ballots will be counted on Friday, September 27th, during a special open third board meeting starting at 9:30 a.m. here in the boardroom. Speaking of important decisions that the board makes on behalf of its members, my second comment is to let you know that the board is planning on voting to approve the 2025 budget, also known as the business plan, during today's meeting during agenda item 11C. The proposed third 2025 budget calls for a 5% increase, or $29.38, for the third mutual portion of our monthly assessment, increasing it from $587.60 this year to $616.98 in 2025. For the GRF portion of our monthly assessment, the GRF board has already approved a 4.4% increase, or $9.97, taking it from $228.22 this year to $238.19 in 2025. These changes would bring our total monthly assessment, not including the surcharges that some members in 3-story buildings pay, from $815.82 this year to $855.17 in 2025, an overall increase of $39.35, or 4.8% over 2024. Changing the subject a bit, for those interested, the GRF board is seeking to fill 5 seats during its annual election coming up in November. If you're interested in becoming a GRF board director, please work with the corporate secretaries, as candidate applications are due no later than 5 p.m. next Tuesday, September 24th. And finally, as this is my last board meeting on the third mutual board, I'd simply like to thank everyone for their support over the past couple of years while I've been a board president. During that time, I've received many encouraging comments, which I've very much appreciated. And that completes my brief remarks for today. As always, thanks for listening, and thanks again for all of your support. We'll now move on to agenda item 6, which is our open forum. At this time, members may address the board of directors regarding items within the jurisdiction of this board and not on the agenda. The board reserves the right to limit the total amount of time allotted to the open forum to 30 minutes. Each member is asked to speak for no more than 3 minutes. A member may speak only once during the forum, and speakers may not give their time to other people. Members not in the boardroom can also share their comments by joining this meeting via Zoom or by emailing your comments to meeting@vmsinc.org to have your message read during this open forum should time permit. And Michaela, are there any requests for members to speak during today's open forum?
Yes, we have 5 in-person speakers. The first in-person speaker is Chris Collins.
Good morning, Chris Collins, 3306Q. I'm here with an update on the work of the foundation of Laguna Woods Village, which we do on behalf of residents who are experiencing temporary financial crisis. This is about the Good Neighbor Project. A sense of community develops in different ways. The surest way is social interaction. For example, sharing experiences, making connections, discussing issues, solving problems. By causing fear and isolation, the pandemic disrupted our sense of community or the social fabric of our village. For our continued well-being and health, particularly as we age, establishing the social fabric is essential. Getting to know our neighbors and working on community projects are some of the ways we do this. So using specifically dedicated bequest funds, the foundation of Laguna Woods Village Good Neighbor Project this summer, September, is a beginning step in just that process. As part of the foundation's Good Neighbor Project, 6 village clubs proposals were selected from those submitted to receive seed money to implement the activities that will help reconnect the fabric. The Baha'i Club is participating without foundation funds. In addition, there's a new initiative with the village Good Neighbor, which is Florence Sylvester Senior Center, which will begin in September. So the 7 projects are all different audiences, activities, and purposes. One is targeted to game players, one is focused on culture, one involves nutrition, while one involves book lovers, and another is about pickleball. All the activities will take place this September to celebrate National Good Neighbor Day, which is on September 28th. The hope is that everyone will find an activity and participate. So I'm just going to list very quickly, and these are in alphabetical order, some of the projects. The African American Club will host an International Game Day. The Camera Club will be hosting resident and pet photographic portraits. Chinese American Club will hold its Mid-Autumn Festival. And the Pickleball Club is hosting a series of pop-up pickleball experiences. The Publishing Club will be sponsoring book buddies, pairing resident and authors with other residents and interested in sharing a book with another. And then the Baha'i Club, which they already had their activity, but it was the Good Neighbor Night dinner on Tuesday, September 10th. So the way to check on when and where these activities are happening is to look in the Globe. There's been articles all this last week about this, so I hope that you will do this. So in the interest of time, just know that the foundation certainly appreciates your ongoing support, and if there's anybody that has any information, look on the foundation at foundation@comline.com about these Good Neighbor projects. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Jennifer Sue.
Dear members of the board, my name is Jennifer Shu. I'm the building captain of Manor 3243, a 3-story garden villa building. This morning, I have with me several residents from our building. We're here to ask for your help. My husband spoke to you on our behalf at the last board meeting about a problem resident in our manor whom we call Person X. You all received the email of his speech along with a signed petition of a list of grievances she has caused. Several months ago, Person X received a violation letter from compliance for storing her personal items in the common area all over the building and excessive plants by her front door. Instead of complying, she retaliated by reporting the entire building to compliance. As if that is not enough, she also reported our neighboring garden villa buildings. The Compliance and Security Department in Laguna Woods Village are there to protect the residents. I'm here to report to you that Person X is using the security and compliance staff to harass and hurt innocent residents. Person X is well known to security and compliance staff. They know her complaints are retaliatory and vengeful. She's looking to get someone in trouble. But current guidelines require them to follow up on her every single complaint and cite someone no matter how small the violation is, or whether they live in a different building and no one there ever complained about it. By doing so, they become participants of Person X's harassment to innocent residents. What they're doing wastes limited HOA resources and causes a lot of stress to residents in the community. Please do not allow someone like Person X to manipulate HOA staff to harass innocent residents. The HOA staff members need to be allowed to think and use common sense to discern the situation to prevent someone like Person X from harassing people. What can the board do to help us? This nonsense has to stop. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Diane Hunziker.
You can go ahead and get started. We'll listen.
Okay. I'm Diane Hunziker. I live in the same building. I've been here a whole 2 years, but I'm here to tell you the harassment that I have received and other members of my building. Harassment, yes. I will start with slanderous words. I was only here a month and she's trying to introduce me, be my friend. What I'm hearing is words of, oh, watch out, don't enter the elevator, there goes the pervert. Oh, when you walk by this house, if the door is open, you'll look in and see she's the hoarder. That nasty old woman who is such a bitch, she complained and made lies. My dog didn't bite her hand, her leg, but I was dragged to court. Pretty soon I had several of these. I've listed other words. These hit me the hardest. I realized I was being manipulated to be her friend, but everyone else was being lied about. These people here have been wonderful neighbors, but Person X has not been so nice. Another problem is I have heard her say anti-Semitic comments right after October 7th when Hamas attacked Israel to our neighbors. They're Jewish. They live right across the hall from her. Despite her antics and her verbiage, which is horrible, she is spying on them with her Ring camera. She has called after a unmentionable person visited her front door, called right after they left because she could see him on the Ring camera. What is your conversation? What are they talking about? Me? They can't even go in and out their own door without her watching. She's also, I have written on there in my own handwriting, adult abuse. The neighbor below her, this Person X, is bedridden in a hospital bed for the last 2 years. In that bed, she has to raise up the bed so at night this person can take a sip of water. She's now terrified. She goes into this position when she was trying to tell me what she has been going through. She can't do that anymore because the person above her is harassing her. She's terrified. But this poor resident in her hospital bed has to listen to 2 dogs above her barking day and night for the last 5 years that she's been there. But she's too terrified to say anything. I'm an RN, a mandated reporter. I've talked to compliance. I've talked to Laguna Woods Social Services. And now I'm talking to you so that you know what's going on in this room, of what's going on. Please help. Something has got to stop. She's an innocent one. She can't stand up for herself. Some of them are so intimidated, they're scared to face you. I'm not. And I'm going to speak for them, our poor residents. She also has texted me some very nasty notes after helping her with her partner, who is very ill in the hospital, while she's a whole month across the country, up there 3 times a day to help take care of him, in and out of the hospital, getting help and services. I was there the last 20 hours that person passed away. But I'm being harassed because I refuse to join her horrendous legal battles between the family and the estate of X's deceased partner.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your comments.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Ms. Hunsinger.
Next speaker is Jim Southworth.
Good morning. I promise not to mention the B word once today, for those of you who recall that. I am Jim Southworth from Garden Villa 3243, Unit 1D, a 3-story building built in 1973. It's now known among residents as Gulag Villa 3243. My opinions and suggestions here are based on training experience and working with citizens in very public settings over the year. Not mentioned before of some of the other things was I was a head code enforcement officer as one of my required duties. And my name and my signature were always on letters that I sent out, which are far fewer in my career than we've received in our building in the last 2 months. The frequent greeting among residents, have you received your compliance notice? A common response is, I've gotten 2 or 3, even maybe 4. 3 for sure. Seriously though, the residents are angry, as am I and the speakers you've heard today. Other residents cannot be here to speak because of the 3-person limit. The harassment in 3243 has been going on for at least 3.5 months that these notices started to come. That's not to say that these issues haven't persisted since I became a resident there in 2016. Common areas have now become no man's land. We have basically a war in the building, and compliance is feeding it with repeated inspections and citations. This is just simply become harassment. In our building, there's nothing uniquely wrong with it out of the ordinary other than personal relationships that have failed. I've had some important questions which the board and we would like to ask. One, how many security and compliance complaints have there been in, I'm going to cut that short. You have the rest of what I said there. I'd like to draw your attention to the back page. I've proposed a resolution for grandfathering our community workbench. I have a sheet about our workbench in there, a picture of it from a notice which was incorrectly assigned to a person, still several old newsletters in which demonstrates that this is a building workbench, and a proposed resolution for you to act on, hopefully today, to grandfather that as a prior use. It's been there for 40 years, I believe, and probably predates any of the existing compliance resolutions that you have. Thank you, and of course, I'm always available for questions.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Final speaker is Gordon Gladstone.
Good morning. I'm a resident of the same building as all these other troublemakers. And my problem isn't that. I mean, that is my problem, but I have one additional problem, which is more of a humanitarian basis. In the last few months, my wife and I have had the privilege, I should say, of walking into 3 people who have been lying prostrate on the ground for over a period of, in one case, 1 hour, 6 hours, one case completely overnight, and in another case for 16 hours. Nobody has been there to help her. Not that it's anybody's fault here, but what I'm trying to get at is there's got to be a method, because this covers all of us. I mean, we could happen to us one day. So there has to be a method of warning. I know there's these little buttons that you can get, and maybe you guys can arrange through something that these buttons get distributed or get advertised or something through here at a special price, so more people can at least get some sort of, suppose, way of informing the outside world that they're incapacitated and cannot do anything about it and will just lie there and die. Had we not gone into these places, I'm convinced that at least 2 of those cases, these people would have been dead by now. So this is something I don't know if we can help. I don't know if you can help. It's not a question of complaint. There's no complaint here, unless it's through scientific means that there isn't a device. But there has to be something that you can advertise, that you can propagate, that you can use your television screens in informing the people where to obtain even one of those little buttons and at what price, because it is a lifesaver. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that is all.
Great. Thank you all for speaking. Appreciate it. Any board members have any comments they'd like to share? Ira?
Just one for Mr. Gladstone, is that right now you don't need necessarily to have a life alert to contact an emergency. You just need a cell phone, and you can put a button on your, for lack of a better term, desktop on your most cell phones in order to create an emergency call and get help that way.
Okay, I accept what you say, and surely it's somewhere, but not everybody knows about it. You know, you're talking to elderly people here. This piece of whatever you like to call it, to them is not magic anymore, but to a lot of people, they don't know how to use it properly. So maybe you can propagate, or you can show people in a little advert on the TV or on a little brochure what to do in the event of something like this happen, how they can use their telephone. I agree with you. It's a way. I think it's a matter of propagating how, look, it's very traumatic going into a room and finding somebody who's been lying there for 16 hours and you don't know if they're alive. And you see what it does to the people around you in that building. And there are a lot of individual people in that complex who are elderly and don't have the capacity of muscles or whatever you like to call it, although they don't have a full-time carekeeper. So something to propagate what will help them is all I'm saying, and I agree with you. It's there, but nobody uses it because they don't know it. So let's propagate it. It costs very little to propagate. Put a little brochure out or a little commercial or something on the local TV stand.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments? Jules?
Yes, on this alleged nightmare on San Amadeo, it sounds like there is some expectation that compliance has to, almost in knee-jerk reaction, respond to every complaint. Is that really the case? Because if it is, perhaps we should have a little more discretion in handling problems like that.
I have Security Director Eric Nunez here. If he could briefly answer your question, please.
Thanks.
Hello, Mr. President, and congratulations on your term and your last meeting, I guess. But I just wanted to say that, and the rest of the board, there are a couple things. One is we wouldn't call it knee-jerk reaction. If somebody reports a violation of the HOA rules, it's our responsibility to determine with the security personnel whether there is a violation that has occurred, and if there is, then we take a report on it, and then we submit that report to compliance. Compliance has a couple opportunities, and you've all seen the matrix and the flow chart on how that works. They can either determine that there isn't a violation of the HOA rules, even though we took a report of such, and do nothing, or they can determine that a further investigation is needed, and if they need to have more information, they'll do the further investigation. And then with that information, they can determine whether there is a need to have to send out a letter saying kind of cease and desist with this behavior or correct this violation, and then wait to see if they do it. And if they don't do it, then they send usually a follow-up, and then they proceed eventually with some sort of disciplinary hearing with that. With regard to the building itself, it is a three-story building, and we've had, I believe, 17 notices of violations issued at the building since June 10th, of which 10 have complied. There's only 7 that are outstanding in this matter. I know that Person X, who's been brought up a bunch of times, is not the actual reporting party on any of these issues, so I'm not sure where that information has gotten, but there have been other people that have reported, plus observations from when they've actually went out there. Compliance inspectors gone out there to inspect the original violations. They discovered there are obviously a whole host of violations out there, and that's why we're dealing with those issues right now. I can tell you that if there is also any concern with harassment or some sort of hate crime issue that I heard mentioned here possibly, then we would obviously be taking a report on that. And then if there is a crime itself, then we would get Orange County Sheriff's Department in to investigate whether there's a hate crime involved. So I'm hoping that answers your question.
And you had moved? Oh, sorry.
Not only question to you, but okay, I think we can just not include or not bring in any name with the X. Or is the person resident X is a problem, so let's kick them out. But that's okay. Okay, I think this is a serious problem. Like Jennifer is the building captain, volunteering. She put a lot of effort in it, but this resident X has just long duration already, so many violations, nobody can help. I'm pretty sure security went out 17 times or 20 times, brought back, sent a letter, all that. But whatever we have is not effective. We need to do something more than effective, make it work. And then also the lady has a harassment. Matter of fact, I wrote one article in this month of the Village Breeze. That is a big issue in this community, not only in this whole throughout America. We need to work on it. And if we don't have enough rules and regulation, we should make one, make it effective, and then that execution should be prompt, decisive. Right now, 17 times warning. How many people, how many we have to go through? So my thinking is we have to make sure there's no room of error to confirm that person's problem. Once we confirm that, then we give a citation, and there may be monetary penalty. And then if that's not effective, then we should put it. We should be able to expel them. If we cannot do that, this community, if we have more people like that, this community very uncomfortable, neighborhood uncomfortable. This. Some people said very older people who cannot move around, and they, this is we have to make it very safe. And then if they bring it a legal issue, we have to deal with it. And if we don't deal with it, and then this keep coming back, this is not right community. We need fix it. I urge this board, whatever I look at I'm one of the member of policy, and we do have all that. Somehow, it's not working. Let's make it work. Thank you.
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to note that Jennifer Sue is not only a building captain, but she's recently been elected to the GVA board, and I'd like to thank Ms. Sue for her service. The other thing that I'd like to address real briefly is the comments that were made about people who are lying for 16 hours and nobody knows. The PC Club specifically shows some of our more elderly residents and residents who may have, may be at risk for this sort of thing, shows them how to use their cell phone to make emergency calls. So there are resources available for those folks.
May I bring to your attention, sir, there's a very big difference between a cell phone and you lying down on the ground and a cell phone that's lying on the ground.
Sorry, this is not a discussion. So you
No,
just...
but I mean, these are ridiculous answers to me. I don't lie to you. I don't get into bed with myself.
Sir?
Sorry, can you just please have a seat?
I'm not supposed to lie on the floor. I can't move, and I've got to go and get my cell phone to press the button. That's stupidity.
All right.
In our community, certain area depend on what kind of network you have, like a Verizon, AT&T is not working in the lower area, like the Part 3 hall. It's not working there. So cell phone is not effective 100%. We have to be very careful. And depending on one method of communication, we may need a multiple communication, also neighborhood alert and somebody jumping in. And we have to have a multiple way to help them out. Thank you.
Chris?
I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to what we were discussing with Chief Nunez. For clarification, were there 17 complaints made by person X or 17 complaints made by residents about person X?
There are 17 violations that were noted. None of them were made by person X.
Okay.
She's not the complaining party in any of them. And some of them were made by other residents. Some were noticed by compliance themselves when they were out there enforcing or notating one of the residents says was out of compliance.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Reza?
Yeah,
And Jules?
Unfortunately, all of us in our lifetime have a share of having a nosy or noisy neighbors, and most of the time when it rises to the point of real harassment and hate crime, I think the best way is to get the authority involved. because with a restraining order or a case with the authorities, people usually pay more attention. Our capability with our security and compliance is limited. We are not enforcer. We cannot put anybody in jail. We cannot, take him to the court. So if it's rising to the point of racism and a harassment, that become a misnomer. So we have to get with the authorities to make a case, and that should be done by the resident. I don't think our security can get involved with that. And then with that, if the individual get a restraining order or a case against them in a court, they usually stop. It has happened in the past, and that's one of the deterrent. Other than that, you're going to have this little duck bite all the time, and all going to be frustrated. And there is really, except the compliance going to look at it, and they come and they have to, investigate everything. They cannot just ignore it, because that's going to cause different problems. So I suggest if there are serious issues, we need to get the authorities involved with the individual so they put him in the right place. That's my suggestion.
And I know that we haven't identified person X, which is great, as we shouldn't, but and I know that people in the audience obviously know who person X is, and so it's very difficult to talk about what's going on with person X, because then you'd be telling them that something that they shouldn't have information on. But person X is also part of our 17 of noted violations. So that it's not like she's. I heard them say something about that she had clutter and all this stuff, and that issue is being addressed as well. So there are, like I said, a whole host of violations out there.
Jules?
Isn't it interesting? This is one of the most interesting conversations we've had in a while. And the only thing that's missing from it, although this troublemaker here tried to participate, and I thank you for standing up again, is the fact that we really don't have enough communication through in our meetings. So our meetings become rather dull because we really haven't had the ability to exchange ideas, arguments of things. I'm really glad, Eric, that you're here because you're answering an awful lot of them. But I'm wondering whether some of these people who have already spoken once and our rules now prohibit from speaking again could essentially answer the question. Because I just heard two completely different stories. One from members who I know and respect and believe, who are talking about a real problem with this woman, and then you're telling me, essentially, it sounds like maybe the woman is really not the problem, and maybe we should have more of a give and take. I hate to sound that what I'm suggesting is that there may be some value in a town meeting format rather than simply following very, very narrow rules with blinders on us. And I think we'd all get something better out of it by having more of a dialogue throughout the meeting. I mean, there's not that many people here that are going to upset the rules. It's just an observation. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you, and I think just for the edification of the board, I wasn't trying to allude that she's not a problem or their problem.
I know.
I'm simply stating that based on the reports that we have been given, she's not the reporting party of the incidents of clutter that we have, both carport and other clutter. So the increased communication is obviously always welcome. I know that compliance was actually speaking with Stuart Hawk and trying to see if there's some way that he can help with communication with the whole group and trying to get down to the actual facts of the matter.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief Nunez. Appreciate it. And thanks, members, for speaking. Appreciate all of those thoughts. Sounds like it's ongoing efforts with this building, so we'll continue to watch it. I'll have some ideas that I'll share with staff. In line, I think, with Jules, maybe some kind of town hall would be appropriate. And we're now moving on to agenda item 8, which is the CEO report. Siobhan?
Thank you. Honorable President, members of the board, audience. This morning, I want to begin by introducing the VMS benchmarking report. This report was mentioned in last Friday's What's Up in the Village. The VMS Board of Directors guided VMS executive leadership through benchmarking, which compares an organization with others in the same industry or a broader marketplace. Benchmarking helps improve processes, technologies, reduce costs, improve customer service, and more. And so, I'm sorry, flipping to the next page. The report compares services and costs of VMS with our 9 departments, which make up VMS, with services provided by for-profit companies, government entities, and other age-restricted communities such as Leisure World, Seal Beach, and Rossmore Walnut Creek. VMS staff research included budget and website reviews, interviews, quotes, service levels, requests for proposals, and labor costs. To read the full VMS benchmarking report, it's available on the Village website at the address shown on the screen, bit.ly/VMS benchmark. You can view and download the complete report there. And also it's under the document section on the VMS website. And you will find further details in future What's Up in the Village and in future editions of the Village Breeze. Today I wanted to share specifics from one of the 9 areas of study, which is general administration. General administration was benchmarked against the sister communities and smaller cities in Orange County. This category consists of administration, communications, corporate secretary, and human resources. The benchmarking criteria includes costs and operational metrics. In terms of operational metrics, each function was evaluated in terms of its complexity. It's either complex, moderate, or low. Administration is based on the magnitude of services managed. Communications is looked at in terms of method and quality of communications outreach. Corporate secretary is based on the meetings administered each year. And human resources is based on the ratio of human resource employees to staff. The results show that VMS provides cost-competitive general administration with a robust service level. General government functions comprise about 7.5% of the GRF budget, which is about 2.4% less than Rossmore Walnut Creek and 9% less than Leisure World Seal Beach. VMS offers higher service levels at a lower cost and leaner staffing levels than these sister communities. And VMS generally offers higher service levels than cities surveyed at a comparable cost and a leaner staffing level. This table shows that those results in a graphic form. Again, VMS has different levels of complexity than the communities we compare it against. We are complex in each of the categories, yet have a lower budget and a smaller amount of employees associated with the general government function. In terms of what we've learned for general administration, while VMS seems to make better use of technology than its sister communities, comparisons with municipalities show that VMS may make greater use of technology for areas such as board and committee meetings and employee recruitment and selection and other functions in HR. So we'll continue to research these best practices that we've discovered, and hopefully these will lead to more operational efficiencies and cost savings in these areas. And as we go through the other 8 categories in future meetings and settings, you'll see the best practices identified for those as well. Switching gears, I'd like to provide an update on bicycle theft in our community. As many people know, we've experienced an uptick in bicycle and e-bike thefts this summer, which mirrors the activity around the community. Security is working closely with the Orange County Sheriff's Department. This includes having a dedicated investigator assigned to our cases, and the Sheriff's Department is conducting extra patrol with marked and unmarked vehicles throughout the community. Trail cameras have been placed in more remote areas where suspects may be entering the property. Diligent observation by our security personnel led to an arrest on August 18th. Orange County Sheriff's Department was called to the scene and confirmed that the tricycle that the person had in their possession was stolen. The subject admitted to regularly entering village property with a friend to steal bikes, and he was pictured in the security flyer depicting possible suspects. The suspect was arrested for possession of stolen property, among other charges. Since then, about a period of a month, there have only been 2 thefts in our community, leading us to believe that at least the main suspects in this trend of bike thefts has been caught and is in custody. Orange County Sheriff's Department and Security reminds the community to use the following bike prevention tips, and it all falls under the category of hide it, lock it, or lose it. So please stow your bicycles safely out of view. Do not make your bicycle a temptation to others. Choose the right place to lock. Inside a home or courtyard is safest. Choose the best bike lock. Avoid cable locks that can be easily cut, considering using 2 steel U-locks, such as those manufactured by Kryptonite. Protect bike parts. If you have a special accessory that is not riveted to the bicycle, chances are someone may try to take it. Keep records of your make, model, color, serial number, and take photos of your bicycle. And the community offers a resident bicycle registration program. This is available at bit.ly/safe bikes. And this will help recover a bicycle if it is stolen or found elsewhere in the community. If your bike is stolen, please remember to call Security Services immediately to file a report. You may call the Orange County Sheriff's Department also and follow the prompts to reach the Orange County Sheriff's Dispatch Center. And please contact security personnel if unknown persons are around your area. Again, we encourage our residents, if you see something, say something and help prevent crime in our community. In conclusion, I want to remind you of 2 disaster preparedness events. On Tuesday, October 8th is the Department of Security Services and Disaster Preparedness Task Force Expo. This will be held in Clubhouse 5. Here you can meet vendors, experience an earthquake simulator, find disaster preparedness supplies, and discover additional resources. On Thursday, October 17th at 10:17 a.m., you may participate in the annual statewide Great Shakeout earthquake drill and prepare for disaster by identifying your drop, cover, and hold locations, inventorying personal emergency supplies, updating emergency contact information with friends and family. And you may visit the Shakeout.org California website for more information and to register. And that concludes my update this morning. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, Siobhan. Any questions, comments for Siobhan, Ira, then Jules?
And just a quick one. On slide 5, you mentioned you benchmarked against sister communities and smaller cities. Do you have a list of those smaller cities?
Yes, we do. That's all. There's a detailed report or component of the report detailing all of that, but it would include Aliso Viejo, Lake Forest, and cities like that.
Okay.
There are about
great.
10 of them.
Then it's all on there.
Yes.
Which ones? Okay, great. Thank you.
Jules?
Just a quick question. What kind of a trike was actually stolen? Was this one of these three-wheeler, typical old three-wheelers, or was it?
I would guess it was an e-tricycle, but I don't know offhand. I have not seen a picture of it.
Oh, you don't know whether it was a recumbent or a sit-on?
I can't speak to that. I
Oh,
can certainly
well.
find out for you, though.
Oh, no, it's only because I have a recumbent trike, and no one wants a recumbent trike.
Moon?
Can you put up the page 8 screen?
Sorry, let me pull it up. One moment.
Page 8?
Yes.
Anyhow, it looks like a VMS doing great job. We use the least money, the least manpower, and then all the work they are doing is very, very complex. So they are doing better than anybody else we are comparing. Congratulations. Do you need more money?
No, but we're going to learn from the best practices that we've researched in other communities, which is really the benefit of this whole study.
Keep up good work.
Thank you.
And then it's a real question I have is, way back I got stolen my golf club, right? And so on your advice, I went to security, and then security advised me to report to the OC Sheriff Department. I did. They never come. Okay? So I didn't know what the difference we reported to security and then OC, what's the impact or importance of reporting to OC department. Second issue, I heard not that long ago, one person was on the CCTV and got caught stealing or looking at somebody else's golf bag. And he said, I thought it was my wife's golf cart. That's a very lame excuse. Then, recently I heard in Korean subway system, they did the experiment. They put the bag with the GPS, 1,000 of them. About 2 days later, all went to one place. 85% went to one place, lost and found. Okay, about 15% got lost completely. I like to have this kind, better than that in this community because we are a very stable community. But is that the thief is outsider or inside resident?
In
Thank you.
In this case, the thieves had no evident tie to the community. So they were outsiders in that case. And we have heard about decoy operations, which you mentioned, where they use the GPS transponder to track things. I'll share that with Director Nunez. I'm sure he's talked with Orange County Sheriff's Department about that already. And then the importance of reporting something to the Sheriff's Department is that it is a crime, and if that item is recovered, they have the evidence necessary to press charges against the suspect.
All right. And I had one.
May I make a comment, please? There's a bicycle that's been sitting along the path that I sent the picture in for to compliance. It's been sitting there for weeks now. So it looks like it's a great opportunity to come across the wall, hit the bicycle seat, and go do whatever you're doing. And so I'm not sure everything's being done to take care of the thief.
Stuart, could you send that to me?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Thanks. And just one question I had, the VMS benchmarking report, who prepared that? A consulting firm?
No, executive staff members prepared that.
Okay, so it's prepared by VMS.
That's correct.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, any other comments? Look online, don't see any. All right. Thanks again, Siobhan. Appreciate the update. We'll now move on to agenda item 9, which is our consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are recommended for action by committees and will be enacted by the board via a single motion. Today, per the consent calendar, the board is being asked to ratify the preliminary financials for the month of June 2024, along with 2 recommendations from landscaping and 2 recommendations from the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee, or ACSC. Can I get a motion to approve today's consent calendar?
So moved.
Jim moves, Chris seconds. Any questions, comments regarding today's consent calendar? Okay. Any questions, comments from members? All right. Any objections to approving the consent calendar as outlined in our agenda packet? Seeing none, we will consider the consent calendar approved. Thank you, board. And we'll move on to agenda item 10. Agenda item 10 is for the board to discuss and vote on unfinished business. Today we have 5 unfinished business items to discuss. We'll start with agenda item 11A, which is for the board to entertain a motion to approve new artificial turf guidelines and an accompanying standard. These new guidelines have been recommended by the Landscape Committee. A request to install artificial turf around a manor will be addressed on a case-by-case basis as they are received by landscaping and the Landscaping Committee. As the mutual works to remove turf, the board wants to make sure that there are guidelines for those situations where installation of artificial turf is appropriate. Last month, the board voted to approve these turf guidelines and standard forward for a 28-day member review and comment period. And today, we will be voting as to whether or not to accept these revised guidelines and new standard going forward. Before we get too far, Chris, could you please read the resolution for us?
Yes. Artificial turf guidelines and standards. Whereas the Third Laguna Hills Mutual recognizes the need to amend standards and create new standards as necessary, and whereas the Mutual recognized the need to create guidelines and standards for artificial turf, and whereas the Landscape Committee will review all requests for artificial turf and refer their recommendation to the Third Mutual Board, and whereas all artificial turf requests and installation will need to follow the guidelines. And now therefore be it resolved September 17, 2024, the Board of Directors approves the artificial turf guidelines and standards as attached to the official minutes of this meeting, and resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Can I get a motion to approve the new artificial turf guidelines and standard before we discuss them further?
Sure.
Chris moves. Is you seconding, Ira?
Sure, I'll do that. I also have a comment.
Okay. All right. So we've had a first and second. So now we'll discuss. Are there any questions, comments from members?
Only just a little addition, as we've been doing to all the other policies we've been putting forth and trying to make them a little more timeless. On page 6 of 8, under number 9, instead of just limiting the material to cut pile polyethylene or polypropylene, in all the other ones we've done, let's say an ACSC with materials, we add in something to the effect of or other equivalent materials with approval. That way, this would not necessarily have to be changed. When a new material comes on the market, it just needs approval from the committee, and it makes it simpler moving forward. That's all.
Okay. Great. Any other questions, comments? Chris?
I'm sorry. Just a couple of comments on the resolution itself. There are just a couple of Scribner notes that I'd like to cite. For example, the resolution is entitled Artificial Turf Guidelines and Standards, whereas if you look at the document, it does not include the word "and standards."
Okay. Okay, got it. Thank you. Any other comments? So we've had a request for a couple of minor tweaks. Any issues with proceeding with those minor comments? You making those minor updates? All right. Any member comments on this topic? All right. Okay. So I guess we will then now vote to approve the guidelines and resolution with these minor comments, which we'll share with staff so they can make sure that they record them appropriately. So hopefully in front of you all, you'll be able to vote electronically. It looks like that's the goal here today.
Brad and SK, are you voting for? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, board. This passed 10 yeses, 0 noes, 0 abstentions. Appreciate that. We'll move on to agenda item 11B, which is for the board to entertain a motion to approve the revision of standard 22 for patio and balcony coverings. This updated standard was recommended by the ACSC and is a rewrite of the standard following ACSC's new format for standards, which includes definitions and pictures to make the standard easier to understand and follow. Last month, the board voted to approve this revised standard forward for 28-day member review and comments. Today, we'll be voting as to whether or not to accept this revised standard going forward. And to clarify, should this updated standard be approved by the board today, these updates would only be applicable to new alterations of patios and balcony coverings going forward, but not applicable to existing patio and balcony alterations. Chris, could you please read the resolution for us before we...
Of
move
course,
further?
a revised standard 22, patio and balcony coverings. Excuse me. Whereas the Third Laguna Hills Mutual recognizes the need to amend standards and create new standards as necessary, and whereas the Mutual recognized the need to revise Standard 22, patio and balcony covers, aluminum and vinyl. Now, therefore, be it resolved September 17, 2024, the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby adopts revisions and amendments to Standard 22 patio and balcony coverings as attached to the official minutes of this meeting, and resolve further that Resolution 03-19-114 adopted November 19, 2019 is hereby superseded and canceled, and resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve this updated standard before we discuss it further?
So moved.
Thanks for waiting for me to finish my sentences. Just teasing you, Jim. And Ira seconds. I see your hand there. Thank you. Any questions, comments on this one? Ira, got some.
Okay, it's very similar to the last one. It was just omitted on page 20 of 26 under 3.1B. It says construction materials are to be aluminum or vinyl only, and everywhere else we have in this, even in under D, you need to add or other acceptable material to be approved.
Okay.
Just as done under D where it says approved or equal. If you have a steel composite, covered composite would be one that could be used that would be approved as well, just as an example.
Okay.
Also on page, this is another minor thing, on page 23 of 26, the picture of, at the bottom of the page under C is not an approved example of what we'd use for bends in downspouts any longer. We used gentle curves, not sharp corners.
Okay.
So
update
perhaps
picture.
another picture should be chosen if this is going to be in the actual example
Standard.
of the standard.
Okay. Great, thanks. Any other questions, comments? Jim?
Just that what Ira said on the first part about vinyl and that it's in the resolution is only those two, so the resolution should also include other approved materials.
Okay. All right, thanks. All right, so again, we have some minor comments. Any comments on either the original standard or the minor comments? All right, seeing none, any member comments on this one? Okay. So it's now, again, time to vote. We're voting now to approve this updated standard with these minor comments that we'll work with staff to make sure are covered. A couple on the standard itself and one in the resolution.
Keller? Yes.
Okay, thank you, SK. Brad?
Approve.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay. And thank you, board. This one also passed 10 yeses, 10 noes, 0 abstentions. Excuse me, 10 yeses, 0 noes, 0 abstentions. Hello. All right. Moving on to agenda item 11C. It's for the board to entertain a motion to rescind standard 29 for solariums, as the information in the existing standard is now included in standard 22 for patio and balcony coverings that the board just approved. Last month, the board voted to approve the rescinding of standard 29 forward for 28-day member review and approval. So today we will be voting as to whether or not to approve the rescinding of the standard going forward. Chris, another resolution for you to read for us, please?
Yes. Rescind Standard 29 solariums, whereas the Third Laguna Hills Mutual recognizes the need to review standards as necessary, And whereas the mutual recently revised the language in Standard 22 patio and balcony coverings to incorporate the processes currently contained in Standard 29 solariums. And whereas the aforementioned integration of procedures would create a duplication of information, the mutual recognizes the need to rescind Standard 29 solariums. Now therefore be it resolved, September 17, 2024, the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby rescinds Standard 29 solariums as attached to the official minutes of this meeting, and resolve further that Resolution 03-06-42 adopted September 19, 2006 is hereby canceled, and resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution.
Go. Great, thanks. Can I get a motion to approve the rescinding of the standard before we discuss it further? David moves. Jim seconds. Thanks. Any questions, discussion? Okay. All right. Many members? No, right? Seeing none, okay, it's now time for us to vote again. So again, we're voting on as to whether or not to approve the rescinding of Standard 29 for solariums going forward.
McKellar, yes.
Thank you, SK.
Brad approves.
Sorry, Brad, what was your vote?
Approved.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, board. This one also passed, 10 yeses, 0 nos, 0 abstentions. And we will move on to agenda item 11D, which is for the board to entertain a motion to rescind standard 37s for patio and balcony awnings and covers, as the information from this existing standard is also now included in standard 22 for patio and balcony coverings that the board just approved in agenda item 11B. Last month, the board voted to approve the rescinding of Standard 37 forward for 28-day member review and comment, and today we'll be voting as to whether or not to approve the rescinding of the standard going forward. Chris, here's another one for you.
Before I read this, I'd like to note there's a typo in the second resolution, or the second from the bottom paragraph. The date of adoption should be September 17th and not May 21. Okay?
Thank you.
Rescind Standard 37, patio and balcony awnings and covers. Whereas Third Laguna Hills Mutual recognizes the need to review standards as necessary, and whereas the Mutual recently revised the language in Standard 22, patio and balcony coverings to incorporate processes currently contained in Standard 37, patio and balcony awnings and covers. And whereas the aforementioned integration of procedures would create a duplication of information, the Mutual recognizes the need to rescind Standard 37 patio and balcony awnings and covers. Now, therefore, okay.
That sounds about right.
Yes, no, I'm sorry. Now, therefore, be it resolved, September 17, 2024, the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby rescinds Standard 37 patio and balcony awnings and covers as attached to the official minutes of this meeting. And I have to reverse and correct myself. The date, May 21st, is correct.
Okay.
I misread it.
Okay.
Resolve further that Resolution 03-24-47 adopted May 21, 2024 is hereby canceled. Okay, I think I need more coffee. And resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of this corporation to carry out this resolution.
Okay, thanks. Maybe if I give you a few more to read, you'll be have it down by the last one. Can I get a motion to approve the rescinding of Standard 37 before we discuss it further? Jim moves, Ira seconds. Any questions, comments from the board? Assuming none from members. Okay. Then we'll vote again. Again, we're voting now as to approve the rescinding of Standard 37 for patio and balcony awnings and covers going forward, as this information is included in Standard 22.
McKellar, I say yes.
Okay, thank you, SK.
Brad approves also.
Thank you.
Okay. So this one also passed, 10 yeses, 0 noes, 0 abstentions. Thank you, board. And one more unfinished business. Agenda item 11E is for the board to entertain a motion to rescind standard 38 for patio enclosures. As again, the information in this existing standard is now included in standard 22 for patio and balcony coverings. Last month, the board voted to approve rescinding of standard 38 for 28-day member review and comment. So today we'll be voting as to whether or not to approve the rescinding of the standard going forward. Chris, one last unfinished business resolution to be read.
Okay, rescind standard 38 patio enclosures. Whereas the Third Laguna Hills Mutual recognizes the need to review standards as necessary, and whereas the Mutual recently revised the language in Standard 22 patio and balcony coverings to incorporate the processes currently contained in Standard 38 patio enclosures, and whereas the aforementioned integration of procedures would create a duplication of information. The Mutual recognizes the need to rescind Standard 38 patio enclosures. Now therefore be it resolved, September 17, 2024, the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby rescinds Standard 38 patio enclosures as attached to the official minutes of this meeting, and resolve further that Resolution 03-19-82 adopted August 20th, 2019 is hereby canceled, and resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of this corporation to carry out this resolution.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a motion to approve this standard, rescinding of this standard before we proceed further? David moves. Ira seconds. Any questions, comments on this one? Last rescinding of unfinished business. Okay. Now, I'm assuming no member comments. All right. So now, again, it's time for us to vote to approve rescinding of standard 38 going forward.
I say yes.
Brad says yes.
Thank
Okay.
you both.
All right. And as you might expect, this one also passed 10 yeses, 0 noes, 0 abstentions. Thank you, board. We're now moving on to agenda item 11, excuse me. So I mentioned, have I had 11, talking about 11 all the time? Wrong? My mistake. All right. Okay. Sorry, let me look at my notes. Okay. Yeah, sorry. So I've been saying 11, and we're now at 11. Moving on to agenda item 11, which is for our new business items. And today we have 4 new business agenda items to discuss and vote on. We'll start with agenda item 11A for the board to entertain a motion to rescind standard 39 for balcony alterations, as the information from this existing standard is now included in standard 22 for patio and balcony covers that the board just discussed and approved in agenda item 10B. Today, the board will be voting as to whether or not to submit the rescinding of Standard 39 forward for 28-day member review and comment. Can I get a motion to place the rescinding of the standard before we discuss it? Ira moves, Jim seconds. Thanks. Any questions from the board? So just looks like another existing standard that is being folded into 22. Okay. Any member comments? Seeing none. Okay. So now time to vote again. Again, this time we're voting as to whether to submit the rescinding of Standard 39 for balcony alterations forward for a 28-day member review and comment period.
Michaela, I say yes.
Thank you.
I say yes.
Okay, thank you both.
Okay, so it looks like we're again 10 yeses, 0 noes, 0 abstentions. Thanks again, board. Moving on to agenda item 11B, which is for the board to entertain a motion to approve the rules for board meetings. These updated rules have been recommended by the Resident Policy Compliance Committee The board meeting rules were recently updated by the board, but afterward, the board noticed that what was approved failed to allow for the emailing of closed meeting agenda packets to directors, which is something that we want to do. So that change has now been made, along with a couple other very minor clarifications. Today, we will be voting as to whether or not to submit these updated rules forward for 28-day member review and comment. Can I get a motion to place these updated meeting rules on 28-day member review and comment period? Before we discuss it further, Chris moves, David seconds. Thanks. Any questions from the board or comments? Jules?
Yes. I have one question and two comments. The question I have is, who drafted these rules? Was this done by staff or was this done by our lawyers? Does anyone know?
I don't know that we know where the original ones came from, but the recent changes came from staff and the committee, but just against the rules that have been in place for many years.
Okay. Thank you. With regard to the open forum comments, sections F1 and F3A seem to suggest that a member's right to speak during open forum on an agenda item might be discretionary. There's certain language in there that says that the chair's discretion. I think the language should be clarified to provide that members have an absolute right in open forum to speak on any agenda item. So I move that we send this proposal back to staff to remove the offensive provisions and provide that members have such right. For example, something to the effect that members shall always have the right to address the board as in open forum to present their positions on any individual item listed on the meeting's agenda. That's the first comment. The second comment is, I strongly object to the language found in item Roman numeral 4, closed session hearings, section B, where it says the member, this is in a disciplinary circumstance, the member may bring written witness statements. The member may not bring legal counsel to executive hearing committee meetings, only regular closed session board meetings. Let's forget the grammatical errors. Let's stick to the substance. Illogically, it then provides, at the discretion of the chair, the alleged party may attend the hearing. Well, since the paragraph already provides that the member may attend the hearing, one wonders just who this alleged party is intended to encompass. What I'm saying is that in addition to all its substantive infirmities, it's too confusing to be understood. Now, here's the real problem with this document. The quoted language says that the members accused of disciplinary violations cannot bring attorneys. This turns logic on its head. It makes no sense, and it violates the due process clause of the United States Constitution. Current case law says that members do not have the right to bring lawyers to regular board monthly meetings. That case is SB Liberty versus Isla Verde. That's Ms. Gottlieb's famous improper citation. But that HOA members are entitled to due process. That case is Cohen versus Kite Hill Community Association. So what is due process and what does it require? There's a mountain of cases that define it, but first and foremost involves the right to face and to cross-examine your accuser. Yet here we are stating in black and white that members have no such right. We can convict members on the basis of triple hearsay allegations when a neighbor tells a cop who tells a supervisor who tells a compliance officer who then, without ever having to investigate or speak to the accuser, files a complaint. What if the neighbor hated the member and lied? What if the cop got it wrong? We've had cases just like this, and we've actually convicted members on just such evidence. That's a shame. Now, our lawyers regularly tell us that we don't have to recognize constitutional rights because we are not a formal government, we're just a contractual relationship. Let me tell you, that is absolute baloney, and they know it. Here is how the Kite Hill opinion put it. Kite Hill is, like us, an HOA. Quote, for many Californians, the Homeowners Association functions as a second municipal government, regulating many aspects of our daily lives. With power, of course, comes the potential for abuse. Therefore, the association must be held to high standards of responsibility. The business and governmental aspects of the association and its relationship to its members give rise to a special sense of responsibility on the officers and the directors. This special responsibility is manifested by the requirement of fiduciary duty and the requirements of due process, equal protection, and fair dealing. If the importance of that last sentence escaped anyone's thinking, due process, equal protection, and fair dealing are constitutional principles. So this disgusting provision is telling our members out loud that this board does not recognize the most basic of constitutional rights, rights that are guaranteed to every single citizen of this country. The question I have is what sort of thinking supported this, the drafting of this insult to our intelligence? Like, who drafted this text? Because that's someone that we don't need to be drafting our legislation. Let me be clear. This disgusting provision is an affront to every thinking American. It stinks to high heaven, and anyone who votes in favor of it, its adoption, will rue their decision. Send this document to the scrap heap. I vote no.
Good, thank you. Moon?
Thank you. When you look at the attendance and the accused or can only bring written statement, he or she cannot bring any other representative with him. So look at some people who's not Thank you. Who's not very comfortable with language, and so there's a conversation going on. They can present the 5 minutes and then be asked about 10 minutes, and then if he or she is not comfortable with all the language barrier, then it's better have somebody who can help that accused. So right now, the only thing he or she can bring it is only written statement. So I would like them, not necessarily attorney, but somebody can help to communicate and engage in conversation, question and answer period. Thank you.
Thanks. Reza?
Yeah, Jules, I wasn't clear. Are you making a motion or amended motion or just a statement? I wasn't clear on that. No, I'm serious. I want to know what.
No, I am against this set of rules because it violates the Constitution and it is extremely unfair and incidentally is more draconian than our present terrible rules because presently, at least the last time I was in an executive hearing, disciplinary committee meeting, lawyers regularly appeared, but now they're saying no lawyers are no longer allowed to appear. So I am completely against this.
I understand that, but I'm still asking, are you making a motion or amended motion or just making that a statement that you're against it? That's all.
No, I think we should vote. I think we should all vote no and send it back to be re-evaluated.
Okay. Chris?
Thank you for asking.
In response to Moon, when we do have the hearings and someone is not comfortable with the language, they usually bring someone with them who can help translate, and they are accepted into the meetings.
Thanks. Yes, Moon?
As written here is only the witness and statement. So just the written statement. But I don't know. I think we have to put in the language and who can help language barrier. And as written as it is, they cannot bring it in right now. Practically right now, you can allow them, but that's not following the rule. So I like to have a rule. If we make a rule, make that is included in the rule.
Okay, great. Right, any other comments, questions? All right. Comments from members? All right, so we have a motion, which is to place these updated rules onto a 28-day member review and comment period. So we could vote on that and then see where we end up. So we're now voting to whether or not to submit these updated rules forward for a 28-day member review and comment period.
Brad votes yes.
SK, could you provide your vote?
I abstain.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so this passed 7 yeses, 2 noes, 1 abstention, just to put it on 20-day member review and comment. So we'll get some members' comments as well. The board will consider it, and it'll be discussed in the next board meeting in October. Thank you, board. Moving on to agenda item 11C, which has 2 parts. The first part is for the board to approve THIRD's 2025 business plan, also known as THIRD's 2025 budget. This budget has been prepared over the past several months based upon discussions between the board, staff, with input from THIRD members as well. And mentioned during my chair remarks, the budget calls for a 5% increase in THIRD Mutual's monthly assessment for the 2024 amounts. Michaela, could you please read the resolution for the 2025 business plan for us before we proceed? Thank you.
Resolution 0324XX 2025 Business Plan Resolution. Resolved September 17, 2024, that the business plan of this corporation for the year 2025 is hereby adopted and approved, and resolved further that pursuant to said business plan, the board of directors of this corporation hereby estimates that the net sum of $45,678,634 is required by the corporation to meet Third Laguna Hills Mutual operating expenses, reserve contributions, and restricted fund contributions for the year of 2025. In addition, the sum of $17,440,389 is required by the corporation to meet the Golden Rain Foundation and the Golden Rain Foundation Trust operating expenses and reserve contributions for the year 2025. Therefore, a total of $63,119,023 is required to be collected from and paid by members of the corporation as monthly assessments. And resolve further that the board of directors of this corporation hereby approves expenditures from the reserves in the sum of $14,960,700, of which $14,532,600 is planned from the replacement fund, $219,901 from the elevator replacement fund, and $208,199 from the laundry replacement fund. And resolve further that the board of directors of this corporation hereby approves expenditures from the restricted fund in the sum of $1,594,676, of which $1,448,256 is planned from the disaster fund, $129,098 from the Garden Villa Recreation Room Fund, and $17,322 from the Unappropriated Expenditures Fund. And resolve further that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby determines and establishes monthly assessments of the corporation as shown on each member's breakdown of monthly assessments for the year 2025, and as filed in the records of the corporation, said assessments to be due and payable by the members of this corporation on the first day of each month for the year 2025, and resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out the purpose of this resolution.
Thank you, Michaela. You read all those numbers very well. Appreciate it. Can I get a motion to approve the THIRD's 2025 business plan before we discuss it further? David moves. Jim seconds. Thank you. Any questions, comments from the board? Yes. Ira?
It's just a confirmation of my memory. On page 246, under line 14, we're having more termite fumigations because we're doing more inspections, I believe. I just wanted a confirmation on that one.
I don't know the reason.
That is correct.
So the question is why we're doing more fumigations, planning more fumigations in 2025?
That is correct. We're doing actual termite inspections now. We were not doing that in the past.
Great, that's what I thought.
Okay. Great. Thanks, Brad. Appreciate that. Other questions? Moon?
Page 2 over 46, line item 22 to 24. We contribute a little over $1 million to reserve. And then in same category, reserve, disaster fund, and then unappropriated expenditure, pretty much similar the money we are saving aside to use for, something we didn't expect it happened. So we saved some money cutting back down and then some money coming in from other region. We have about $1 million. I'd rather have this $1 million back to the resident instead of going back to the reserve fund. And thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. Any other questions, comments? All right. Any question, comment from any members? All right. I did get a motion, did I not? Yes, I did. Okay. So it's now time for us to vote. We're voting now as whether to approve THIRD's 2025 business plan.
Michaela? Yes. I say yes.
Okay, yes for both Brad and SK. Thank you. I just need Jules and Reza's vote.
Okay. All right. So this passes
Thank
8
you.
yeses, 1 no, 1 abstention. Thanks. The second part of this agenda item 11C, is for the board to approve THIRD's 2025 reserve funding plan. This reserve funding plan was prepared along with the business plan over the past several months. And so we'll be voting on to whether to approve that as well. Michaela, can you please read the 2025 reserve funding plan resolution for us?
Sure. So Resolution 0324XX, 2025 Reserve Funding Plan. Whereas Civil Code 5570 requires specific reserve funding disclosure statements for common interest developments, and whereas planned assessments or other contributions to reserves must be projected to ensure balances will be sufficient at the end of each year to meet the corporation's obligations for repair and/or replacement of major components during the next 30 years. Now therefore be it resolved September 17, 2024, that pursuant to Civil Code 5570, the board hereby adopts the 30-year alternate reserve funding plan attached for fiscal year 2025, and resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out the purpose of this resolution.
Okay, thanks. A little easier. Can I get a motion to approve THIRD's 2025 reserve funding plan before we discuss it further? David approves, thanks, and Ira seconds. Thank you both. Any questions, comments regarding the reserve funding plan? Reza?
Is it advisable to be in red for the next 10 years?
David, you have a response?
Yeah. We can stay out of the red completely. if we're willing to give up the prior to paint program. The problem that we have is if we do that, a lot of the expenses that are incorporated in the prior to paint program are going to be incurred anyway. Because a lot of the landscaping needs to be renewed, it needs to be exchanged, replanted. We can do it as a part of the prior to paint program. That affects the that affects the reserve projection. We could fancy up the numbers. We could make it look better. We could be completely out of the red. We'd still have to spend the money. The reality wouldn't change. It would just be fancying up the reserve projections. Unless we want to completely ignore landscape and grading on the buildings for the next 10 years, relining the pipes. The reserve levels are considered adequate by staff. I agree with staff, and I'm going to be voting for the reserve resolution.
Yeah, I kind of gloss over what you said, fancying the number. I hope you're not fancying the number, because that's not in favor of anybody. But at one point of time in 2028, we're going to be at 16%, 16.7%, which is pretty low. And that might impact the resale value of homes, because when people buy, they look at those things, and those are one of the indicator of the health of the community. That's why I'm asking the question. And what you're saying, prior paint program have no impact because we have to spend it anyway, so that's not the solution, that not do it. So I was looking see if there are other avenues that we can kind of beef up rather than fancying the numbers.
We could, and what we're showing on the reserve projections, I think, is a fully transparent number. Like I said, we could gloss the numbers, we could rig the reserve projections, make it look a lot better. But in terms of full disclosure to the community and upholding our fiduciary duties, I support the course that we're taking right now. In terms of other solutions, we could stop roofing. We could stop any one of a dozen things, but I don't think anybody wants to do that. It's an aging community. This can has been kicked down the road for years, and the road stops here. We have to deal with these issues. We have to deal with them now. The can cannot be kicked any farther down the road. So we bite the bullet, and we do the work we need to do.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Thanks for the question and the reply. Moon?
Yeah.
Ira, did you have your hand raised?
Yeah.
Page 35 over 46, the reserve, 30 years reserve plan summary. And we look at the national standard of statistics, and then we are a little lower side. But instead of we meeting the national standard, we have to look at our particular situation. Our starting reserve fund and then reserve expenditure, it never use all the reserve. We always have some reserve, even we use reserve of that year, particular year. So we keep on funding the reserve. We already have enough money, then that year we are using. And we have to look at what reserve fund for. Reserve fund for is when we have something unexpected expense, so we can use it. We don't need to meet national standard or somebody else's neighborhood and whatever they are doing. We have to look at what we need. are we sufficient? To me, when look at this number, we are already sufficient. We never exceed the whatever we have money at that year's reserve expenditure. Thank you.
Thank you. Ira?
So, Moon, I'm going to have to disagree. I'm going to agree with David pretty much 100%, except for his word, kick down the can down the road for years. It's been decades.
Please amend my
as far
comments.
as your view on the reserves, Moon, not for, it's for unexpected needs. No, this is for expected needs. I believe that the next big need that we need to prepare for will be roofing. You're going to have to re-roof the greater majority of this community, and that's going to be tens of millions, just like fixing the landscape is tens of millions. And that's without the state throwing in the curveballs like AB 1572, which is another 10 million. So if you run this down, all you're asking the community to do is prepare for a special assessment somewhere down the road. And I think that's unfair. The reserves are made to accommodate the yearly use of everything. You use your roof this year, you pay a part of that roof replacement this year, and nothing gets cheaper. Everything, especially in the last few years, with COVID accelerating it, we've had incredible inflation for materials, and we have to accommodate this. Also, if you look, spending money now saves a tremendous amount of money down the road, because when we get out of the red by spending money for landscaping and other items, we go into the acceptable range for a decade, let's say, and then we're going to be in the exceptional range after that. And for an aging community, or community of our age, to get back into the green, I'd like you to show me another community with that kind of projection, because I don't think you can find one. So what they're doing here is better than most community, or possibly better than all the communities of this type out in California. So that's all I have to say.
Moon?
May I? When you look at the page 35 over 46, then look at the last column, reserve expenses. Only 1 year is spending more than $1 million, but always we have more than that year's reserve expenditure. We have more money in the reserve. Not only that reserve, we have 3 different pockets. We have a reserve, we have a disaster fund, we have an unappropriated fund. So we have operation. So look at we have operational fund, we have a reserve fund, we have a disaster fund, then we have unappropriated. So all these 3 categories is in our back pocket for saving, for rainy days. So I'm questioning many residents are pressed we keep on raising HOA for Third Mutual as well as CRF. So they are pressed. So we give them our HOA always going up every year, around 5% plus minus. So our service, sure, we have the inflation and many other factors, but we have to show them our sincerity, thinking about resident. And if we can save them, we should try. Thank you.
Thank you. Reza?
Yeah. Again, one of the indicator of health of communities is reserve. Our infrastructure is not going to get younger or better. It's going to keep needing more and more help as we go forward. Just staying in red and not funding the reserve enough to be on the safe side, that means when you're at 16%, if anything happened in this community, we are in trouble. And that is not good because I believe people might like to pay a little at a time than cough up the money at one time, which might not be able to do some of the people. So for that reason, we have to pay attention to this. As I said, we're hoping that all things that we do to the community infrastructure are going to get better. No, we're just fixer-upper. And it's going to continue need more money to go in there in order to keep it up. The buildings are, 30 years old, 40 years old. 10 years from now is going to be, 10 years older. And it's not going to get better. The wood in there is going to rot. The piping need help. All of those need help. So the reserve is what gives people confidence that we can deal with the issues. And if we don't have enough reserve to deal with the issues, it's going to be trouble. Nobody talking about, kicking the can down the road or not doing this, not doing that. The question is how we can balance this in order to stay on the safe side with the reserve and move the community forward also. That's my concern.
Okay, thanks. Brad, you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I think I just want to comment that I think if we can cap increases at 5% or less over the next several years, I think that's really a win. A lot of what you're looking at spending money on, I think, is a necessity. The prior to paint program, not only are you painting the buildings, you're taking care of dry rot, you're increasing efficiency on the gutter programs, you're improving the landscaping, reducing water usage, lowering the amount of buildup around the buildings. The pipe coating program, we're taking that back out to bid due to really an unacceptable increase in the cost. The roofing we're looking at, we're putting the cool roof on. They just did one of the buildings in my neighborhood about 8 weeks ago. The neighbor I talked to is already seeing a noticeable difference in her electric bill based on that. I think that we're spending money wisely, and I think we are taking a proactive approach so that as we move down the road, we're spending it wisely and reducing our long-term costs, which, if you don't do the piping, you don't do the electrical, you don't do the roofing, you don't do the paint and the landscaping, I think long-term it's just going to be a disaster for this community if we don't continue to do a little bit at a time as opposed to trying to get it all at once. Thank you.
Thanks. Moon? Last comment, and then we'll move on.
Yeah. When each operational fund goes up, they understand operation money is going up. But reserve money is a back pocket. Okay, second, our investment of reserve is one of the least effective than most other people can do because of legal restraint, we cannot do anything more than T-bill. So our recuperation from investment is very low and the other. I was one of them about little over a year ago. I was proposing all the board members, not only third mutual, all the board members, let's build a 50 stories building because this building is 60, 70 year old, it's not getting younger. We're going to have more problems. So we need to drastic change to get out of this trap. But we don't have a really great leadership to lead that. because we are all volunteer. Nobody want to put that much time, effort, all that, and trying to do work on it. Thirdly, a lot of new buyer of this condo on Third Mutual, include not only Third Mutual, maybe United as well. They renovate a lot of money, even $250,000 or $500,000 money to renovate. But look at, we have a regulation. Once you touch it, it's your responsibility, not the Third Mutual responsibility. So as years goes on, Third Mutual responsibility will be shrinking, shrinking, shrinking. We don't have to spend money because the resident touched it. It's your responsibility. So pretty soon, all the building, condominium, they renovate, Third Mutual doesn't have to fix at all. So all that, we make a lot of reserve to the national standard. We are not using it, all of them, and our investment return is very low. Is that right way to do it? Thank you.
Thank you. And now why don't we go ahead and vote? Unless we have any member comments. Great. Again, we're voting to approve Third's 2025 Reserve Funding Plan. Thanks for all your comments, board. Appreciate it.
Brad votes yes.
Looks like we lost.
I say abstain.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think we're done. I don't see
Yeah,
Jules.
I'm going to mark him as
Jules,
absent.
I don't see Jules here, so I don't know that I think he might have left. Is he anything there at his desk? Okay, Jules has left. All right, so 6 yeses, 2 noes, 1 abstention. Thank you, board. This reserve funding plan passes, and we will move on to the last new business agenda item, which is 11D, and it's for the board to entertain a motion to request the GRF board schedule a meeting to allow the GRF corporate members to vote on the current proposal regarding Building E that was approved by the GRF board back in July. Since this proposal would result in costs in excess of $500,000, as per the GRF bylaws, the third board wants to make sure that those bylaws are followed and the corporate members get to vote on that proposal. Chris, could you please read the resolution for us?
Yes. Request a special corporate members meeting of Golden Ring Foundation of Laguna Woods. Whereas on January 18, 2021, the Golden Ring Foundation of Laguna Woods, GRF, adopted amended bylaws, which sets out the purposes, powers, and governance of the GRF. And whereas Section 5.3 of the GRF bylaws provides in pertinent part, quote, a special meeting of corporate members may be called by a written resolution approved by a majority of the directors of any mutual board. Emphasis added. And whereas Section 2.4.16 of the GRF bylaws provides the definition of mutual as follows, quote, the housing mutual corporations, which are corporate members of this corporation, and whereas Section 2.4.9 of the GRF bylaws provides the definition of corporate members, which reads as follows, quote, the mutual corporations at Laguna Woods Village, Laguna Woods, as represented by the directors of the respective boards as of the date of these bylaws. The corporate members are United Laguna Woods Mutual, Third Laguna Hills Mutual, and Laguna Woods Mutual 50, emphasis added. And whereas Section 5.4.3 of the GRF bylaws provides that a special meeting of the corporate members shall set forth the general nature of the business to be transacted. And whereas based on the foregoing sections of the GRF bylaws, a special meeting of the corporate members to vote on the GRF board-approved proposal for Building E may be called by the Board of Directors of 3rd Laguna Hills Mutual by way of a written resolution documenting that a majority of the directors of 3rd Mutual approve the calling of the special meeting, and whereas a majority of the directors of the 3rd Mutual Board of Directors have approved the calling of a special meeting of the corporate members of the GRF to vote on the GRF board-approved proposal for Building E. Now therefore be it resolved on September 17, 2024, that a majority of the directors of the 3rd Mutual Board of Directors have approved to call a special meeting of the corporate members of the GRF to vote on the GRF board-approved proposal for Building E, and resolve further that the 3rd Mutual Board of Directors has directed its president to request that the GRF board schedule a special corporate members meeting with the purpose of discussing and voting on whether or not to approve the GRF board-approved proposal for Building E.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the requesting of the GRF board? David moves, Chris seconds. Thank you. Any questions, comments from board members? Okay, seeing none, okay, all right. No questions, comments, so it's now time for us to vote. Again, we're voting on whether or not we should request the GRF board to schedule a corporate members meeting to vote on the Building E proposal.
I say yes.
Brad votes yes.
Thank you, and I'll mark Jules as absent.
Did Moon leave as well? Ira, is there anything at Moon's?
Oh, yeah, he should be back.
Oh, okay. Okay, but this one has 8 yeses, 0 no's, 0 abstentions, and Moon and Jules are out at the moment. So this passed by a majority of the board. Thank you, board.
Are you planning a date for that, or just
Nope.
open-ended? The request is open-ended?
I mean, I would expect that
Yeah, what's the rules?
GRF has to schedule it, and they have leeway based upon the bylaws as to when they can schedule it. I would expect that it'll probably be not submitted to the GRF board until after the minutes of this meeting are approved, just to keep things 100%
I
clear.
didn't know what the rules are, how many days and things like that.
Yeah, they have between like 30 and 150 days to schedule the meeting. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. All right.
I have a question regarding this resolution. Can this be applied to other GRF expenses of $500,000 as well in the future?
I mean, in the future, this board can make requests similar to this. This one, is a specific resolution regarding Building E. This board has the ability via the GRF bylaws to recommend a request a meeting for many things, if that's what you're asking.
Yes. Yeah. Regarding a good example is $600,000 expenses for audio system in theater. A lot of people complaining that $600,000 expenses is way too expensive for the audio system. So maybe we can apply this method to the expenses the residents feel that it's too expensive.
Mark, may I?
Okay. Yes, David.
Okay. SK, the provision on the audio visuals that they want to spend for the PAC don't currently come under the provisions of, I believe it's 2.1.4, which provides for structures. And that same would hold for broadband, which is, Jim, if I'm right, about a $2 million expenditure. So this is something that we will need to sit down and address and determine what might be done to take care of that, but it will take additional action by the boards.
Yeah, then. sit down
Actually,
and-
SK, it's, the way they get around it is repair or replace, and then you have some dispute whether repair or replace when you're putting in a whole new system.
Yeah.
So if the sound system is an entire new sound system, it isn't technically repair or replace, it's actually new construction. But
Right.
you have to decipher between that. And so that's kind of the problematic part, that some of the specifics weren't written into this in the bylaws when they first did it. And it tends to cause problems because if GRF wants to do things without corporate approval, they simply try and circumvent it by saying it's repair or replace rather than it's new construction. So that's something that the new board going forward may try and fix the disparity in the bylaws.
Yeah, so we have the option to request a meeting to update the bylaws, and maybe that's what we need to do. Yeah.
And the reason for this particular motion, under the bylaws, JRF claimed that there was an ambiguity that allowed them to bypass us. There's another provision in the bylaws that says we can demand a corporate meeting on an issue by passing a motion, and that's what this motion is. I understand from JRF that they are planning on submitting a revised proposal to us, and that they have given up on trying to bypass us. However, this motion ensures that they can't.
Okay.
Okay.
The reason I'm bringing that up is because large expenses they try to do by themselves using the existing law that raise some big question of the resident that they don't feel they're required to do so. So I like to do the same thing for the broadband and system, and also all items that above $500, whether they use the existing vision or not, all the money is coming from our pocket. Theirs. So I like to see some more control over their expenses. That's my main point. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, we'll move on to agenda item 12, which is where members of this board will share our monthly third board committee status updates, starting with the report of the Finance Committee. Sorry?
I'm sorry, have we voted on 11D?
Yeah.
Yes?
Okay, great.
Yeah, it passed 8-0-0.
Great.
All right, and so, David, the floor is yours regarding our report of the Finance Committee.
Okay, so report of the Finance Committee. Let me get that out of my stack here. Okay, here we go. Okay, the Finance Committee met on Tuesday, August 6th. The financial report that we reviewed was as of July 31, 2024. You can see from the slide on your screen that the assessment revenue actual was $25,000, non-assessment revenue $2,000. Zero submitted. And total revenue was $27,708. Total expense $25,132, leaving a net revenue expense of $2,576,000. From the operating income statement, again, you can see that we had assessment revenue of $16,185,000, non-assessment revenue of $1,471,000, gives total revenue of $17,656. Total expense net of depreciation $17,841, which gave us an operating deficit as of July 31 of $185,000. Okay, and looking back through the minutes, that was the major item that we accomplished. The next meeting will be held Tuesday, October 1st at 1:30 p.m.
About any of these other slides?
Let's see. On the next slide shows the income statement, shows the budgeted amount and the variance. Assessment revenue is right on target. Non-assessment revenue is the variance unfavorable, about $642,000. And the bulk of that is shortfalls in the projected recoveries from water damage restoration hearings. So that left us with the $642,000 unfavorable variance and reduced our net revenue to $229,000. And next slide, please. Okay, so if you look at the variances, the employee compensation favorable variance resulted primarily in the landscape and M&C departments due to open positions. Impacted areas include ground maintenance, irrigation, paint, carpentry, and electrical. Recruitment is in process to fill open position. Ground maintenance contracted shrub bed maintenance to outside vendors for the pruning weeding cycle as they continue to as they continue to fill open positions. Investment income, $492,000. This is, quite frankly, a windfall that is quite likely to drop precipitously very soon. As everybody probably knows, the Fed is meeting today to consider interest rate adjustments. We've benefited for the last umpteen months from what's known as an inverted yield curve, which meant the highest yields on government bonds were on the short end where we invest as fiduciaries. The investment community generally expects the yield curve to straighten out sometime in the next few months after the Fed finishes making whatever rate reductions that it's going to make. We continue to invest in a minimum risk type portfolio, particularly using what's called laddering in our maturities, which neutralizes any bets on interest rates one way or another and minimizes the risk that we end up on the wrong side of a bet. Let's see, insurance. We had a favorable variance primarily in property insurance as a result of our new joint policy with United that began on June 1st. The joining together with United lowers our premium by sharing coverage. We have an unfavorable variance in legal fees of $166,000, primarily due to more resident-related legal fees than anticipated. The last item on the slide is fees and charges to residents. It's an unfavorable variance of just over $1 million. And the unfavorable variance is primarily due to less backlog revenue than anticipated for damage restoration cases. Backlog resident was estimated to be an average of $4,000 per case based on available information at the time. And this was the time that the 2024 budget was being developed. The actual charge per case has averaged approximately $3,000. Hearings to determine if a member is responsible for the charges are ongoing and are expected to be completed by the end of the current year. Next slide, please. Okay, in this table, we show our non-assessment revenues earned to date by category and compare them to the current year's budget and the prior year's year-to-date actuals. Our largest revenue-generating categories as of July 31st were investment income, again, which is going to be declining in the future, we expect, resident maintenance fees, and sales and leasing fees. Non-assessment revenues total $2.3 million through the reporting period. Next slide, please. Okay, in this table, we present our expenses to date by category, and we compare them to the current year's budget and the prior year's, again, year-to-date actuals. Our largest expense categories as of July 31, 2024, were employee compensation and related, outside services, and insurance. Expenses totaled $25.1 million through the recording period. Next slide, please. Okay, this slide shows our non-operating fund balance on July 31, 2024. The balance was $35.7 million. Year-to-date contributions and interest were $10.1 million, while year-to-date expenditures were $7.2 million. Next slide, please. Okay, on this slide, we compare the non-operating fund balances to historical fund balances for the past 5 years on the chart, which has averaged $31.6 million. Third Laguna Hills Mutual has been committed to supporting reserve requirements and having more contingency funds for unexpected events. Next slide, please. Okay, on this final slide, we have a slide here that shows our resale history from 2022 to 2024. Through July 31st, third resales total 215, which is 26 more resales than the prior year for the same time period. The average year-to-date resale price for a third mutual banner was $616,000, which is $88,000 higher than the prior year for the same time period. And that concludes my report.
Okay, great. Thanks, David. All right. We'll next receive an update regarding the ACSC. Brad?
The last meeting of the ACSC committee was on September 9th, where Jim Cook graciously turned the reins over to me. The main area of emphasis was finalizing the patio standards and eliminating some of the redundant standards once the new one was updated. The plan is to continue to go through each of the individual standards, consolidate, update, eliminate as we move forward. There was nothing significant that came out of that meeting, and the next meeting is currently being scheduled.
Okay, thanks. And while I have you, Brad, can you please share an update with us regarding the third Maintenance and Construction Committee?
That meeting was also on 9/9. The main areas of emphasis on the Maintenance and Construction Committee are being fiscally responsible in our spend. Again, we've eliminated the asphalt program for 24 and 25. We've increased the sealant program. We also are taking a look at this new decking material they're using as a replacement for an older material in the roofing, which seems to be moving along successfully. And we're going back out to bid on a couple of the projects that had excessive increases, mainly the repiping program. That RFP is currently being developed. We're trying to incorporate it so that it has a greater, there's more broadness to it so we can get more manufacturer's coating products as opposed to just one manufacturer's coating product. That should help when we go back out to bid. And then also based on some recommendations from SK, we're also going to look at repiping possibly part of the pipes as opposed to coating them, particularly in the underneath structure in the 3 stories where you have access to the piping without having to cut into manners. So I think that, again, M&C is moving along in the right direction. We're obviously going to spend quite a bit of money, but we just want to make sure that we're spending it correctly.
Great, thanks. And the
That next meeting is still being scheduled as well.
Okay, thanks. All right, next we'll get an update regarding the landscape committee. SK? You're on mute? There you go.
Yeah, Mark, I sent you a copy of it.
Yes? You're not going to read it for me? You want me to do it?
Yes, would you mind? I did not prepare that at all.
I thought you shared it in case you couldn't join. I know. Now that you're joining, you still want me to read it. Huh? Okay. I can do that. The third Mutual Landscape Committee meeting was last held on September 5th at 9:30 a.m. here in the boardroom. Kurt Wyman of Landscaping updated the committee on the status of the project log, the tree trimming activities, staff training, and the monthly quality results. Kurt also informed the committee that the compliance of AB 1572, which is a state law requiring that turf be removed in gates 14 and 11 due to their being watered by potable water, has been extended from 2029 to 2030 due to Laguna Woods Village being considered a disadvantaged community since we're a senior community. The committee discussed a member's landscaping request and had an in-depth discussion on the paint program restoration project, including in-depth discussion about the communication of the project to members and how that can be improved. And the third Mutual Landscape Committee is scheduled to next meet on Thursday, October 10th at 9:30 a.m. here in the boardroom. Now, I don't see Jules, so I guess he doesn't have any updates for the Water Conservation Committee, and so I'll update you on the third Resident Policy and Compliance Committee. That committee last met on Tuesday, August 27th. During that meeting, the committee discussed the process for tracking and managing lease requests if and when Third Mutual exceeds its current 30% lease cap. From this discussion, the committee requested that leasing staff present an overview of the entire leasing process in a future committee meeting so that the committee members understand how the current leasing process works and where the 30% lease cap actions would best fit. The committee also discussed updates to the board meeting rules that the board discussed earlier today and put on 28-day member review and comment period. The third Resident Policy and Compliance Committee will next meet next Wednesday, September 25th at 9:30 a.m. here in the boardroom. And that's all we have for third mutual committees. So we'll move on to agenda item 13, where we will share our monthly GRF status updates, starting with the GRF Community Activities Committee, or CAC. That meeting last met September 13th. In that meeting, recreation staff reported on recreation-related activity status, upcoming events, an update on Clubhouse One renovations, and reservations for that matter, but renovation, and updates regarding the golf courses and garden centers. The committee also reviewed and discussed the quarterly financials for recreation and approved extending the operating pool hours for Pool 5 from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m., so extending the operating pool hours from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. for the month of October, and that was approved. The next CAC meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, October 10th at 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. I'll next move on to village traffic hearings. The August village traffic hearings were held on August 21st. These traffic hearings are overseen by a committee consisting of directors from 3rd, United, Mutual 50, and the GRF boards. During the August traffic hearings, 3 violations were heard and determinations made, and the September traffic hearings are scheduled for tomorrow. And then we have the GRF Information Technology and Advisory Committee, also known as ITAC. They last met on August 30th. During that meeting, staff presented the latest status, which was that the first phase of Microsoft Dynamics 365 was ready to go live over Labor Day weekend. And live it went. As of last Friday, September 13th, the system was working as planned, and finance and related teams are working hard to double enter most transactions. They're entering transactions in the old system and the new system to make sure that they're in sync. And the next big test of Dynamics 365 will be the month-end close of September. They'll close the books in both the old and the new systems to make sure the data matches. If it does, we'll consider phase one a successful implementation. And the next ITAC meeting, which is a closed meeting, is scheduled for Friday, September 27th. And what can you tell us, moving on, what can you tell us regarding GRF Broadband Ad Hoc Committee, Jim?
Okay, this closed committee met on August 27th, September 11th, September 12th, and also September 16th. The next meeting is to be determined. The meeting is looking at trying to educate the community as to our broadband. Would advise members of the community to go to YouTube channel for TV6 and find the talk that Paul Ortiz gave to the PC Club. It's about an hour long, but it kind of gives you the state of our internet service, our broadband, and it's just an overall view for the community to start seeing what's going to be moving forward with the Broadband Ad Hoc Committee. So try and make do to see that and get yourself educated.
Okay, great, thanks. All right, next we'll get an update regarding the GRF Finance Committee. David?
Yeah, GRF Finance Committee last met on August 21, 2024. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend the meeting. Their next meeting will be September 18th, tomorrow, at 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom.
Okay, got it. And what can you tell us regarding the GRF Security and Community Access Committee, Reza?
GRF Community Security and Community Access Committee met on August 28th. Number of items were discussed, such as the security statistics update. The RV lot have no waiting list, current waiting list, notice of violation that was issued. It was 49% of it is failure to obey stop sign. Orange County logged in about 16 violations within our community. The compliance notice of violation was about 843, most of them delinquency. And you heard from the CEO this morning about the bike theft and finding, apprehending someone with the bike. So we're hoping that's going to reduce the number of bike theft in the community. Some of the other items discussed was a smart ID publication that all vehicles must have an RFID, and a traffic fee recommendation that's going to go for the review and approval. The next meeting is scheduled for October 23rd in the boardroom.
Great, thanks, Reza. And finally, the following GRF committees have not met since the last third board meeting of August 20th, so there are no updates for these. The GRF Disaster Preparedness Task Force last met on July 30th and is scheduled to next meet on Tuesday, September 24th at 9:30 a.m. here in the boardroom. The GRF Mobility and Vehicles Committee last met on August 7th and is scheduled to next meet on November 6th at 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. The GRF Landscape Committee last met on August 14th and is scheduled to next meet on November 13th at 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. The GRF Maintenance and Construction Committee last met on August 14th, 2024, of course, and is scheduled to next meet on October 9th at 9:30 a.m. here in the boardroom. The GRF Media and Communications Committee last met on July 15th and is scheduled to next meet on Monday, October 21st at 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. And finally, the GRF Space Planning Ad Hoc Committee last met on May 1st, and its next meeting is to be determined. And that concludes the committee reports. We're now at agenda item 14, which is for the board to note any items they'd like to be discussed at a future board meeting. So far on our list, we have 2 items that today we put onto 28-day member review and comment, which are the rescinding of Standard 39 for balcony alterations and board meeting rules. Are there any other items that any board directors would like to be considered for future meeting agenda? Okay, I know a member brought up something about grandfathering a workbench, and we'll address that in probably a different, more appropriate forum.
I have one item.
Okay.
We might want to, in a future agenda item, have Paul Ortiz come and give a little talk on broadband to educate the community, start educating the community.
Okay, hopefully less than an hour.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, we'll add that to the list. Thanks. Any other?
Maybe you can do it in a series.
Could be.
An ongoing series.
Or talk really fast.
Yeah, you know.
Okay, any others? All right, okay. We're now into agenda item 15, which is director comments. So any directors have any final comments they'd like to add? Moon?
Yeah. Thank you, Mark and Jim and Ira, and for your great contribution and service to the mutual and this board. And thank you. Even to the last, you are doing a great job. Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Ira, any comments?
Well, I'll say hopefully the changes that I've helped make over the last 3 years will benefit the community, and hopefully now I can take advantage of some of the facilities here.
Thanks. Jim?
And some of the accomplishments weren't done by me alone. They were done by my committee, by the staff, by everyone. And hopefully what I've started with alterations, and I'm hoping it will move forward because it's beneficial to both the members and to the staff for more efficiency going forward.
Good. Thanks. Chris? Okay. David?
I want to thank the 3 amigos for the leadership that you've provided over the last 3 years. There are so many cans that, as Ira noted, have been kicked down the road for decades, and you guys led us to start dealing with them, I think, just in time. And the concerned citizens who put you all forward 3 years ago did this community a great service by encouraging you to run for leadership of this board. And by your leadership, you have done this community an even greater service. And I thank you.
Reza?
Well, I just want to echo that. Thank you for your service. Great. And I hope that be a good example for the others to participate in community activities and sign up for be grilled and not appreciated sometimes. And they come forward because this is our community and community need helps. Thanks.
Thanks. Thanks. And I want to just thank all of the board members I've worked with. We may not always have agreed, but we were able to persevere and get the job done and remain friends even after we might have disagreed to some issues. So appreciate all that. Appreciate working with you. And for those of you that are remaining on the board, good luck. And if there's any way I can help you going forward, please don't hesitate to reach out. And okay, the business of our open meeting is now completed. Third Mutual's next monthly open board meeting will be held on Tuesday, October 15th at 9:30 a.m. here in the boardroom. And it will also be live on TV6 and Zoom. At this time, the monthly board meeting will recess for 19 minutes, and then the executive committee will reconvene to executive session about 12:15. Thanks to those of you who participated, and thanks to everyone for listening.